Okay, first thing I'm going to do this morning is to actually go through how to fill in a POD, in particular for a burn-in job. So, starting at the top, the collection address, let's say Southern Counties, car deliveries, Havant Road, Portsmouth, and it's to Hibernian Commercials, Google Docs, Liverpool. Okay, starting at the very top, first thing is if you check the water and you stick in the water level, so we're going to say it's there and the oil's been checked and that's fine as well. Next one is the weather conditions. Today it's dry and fine. Then on to the next line, the collection date. Put in today's date, which is the 13th of June 2019, and the time is 10 o'clock. Okay, the collection mileage of the vehicle is 21,220, and the make of the model is a BMW, and it's an X5. Okay, colour is black, and the registration number is HV17ABC. If you don't have a registration number, it's a new car, there is room there for the chassis number. Checking to see that you have the service book and handbooks. If it's yes, which it should be on a Hibernian vehicle, circle yes, circle yes. On to the next line, fuel. This one is a diesel, so we cross out everything except diesel. Spare keys and invoice, both the V5 and the spare keys are there, so quite clearly circle yes. On to the next line, we know that it's an X5, so we call that a hatchback, and then it has, this one in particular is an auto. The weather and light during the appraisal is good. It is dirty, and the inside of the vehicle it has been valeted, so we're going to say that that's clean. Okay, on the next area of the form you can see the codes. A is an abrasion, B is broken, C is chip, D is a dent, E is a burn, F means faulty, H is a hole, L is a crack, M is missing, NA if it's not applicable, a tick for OK, P for poor, R for rust, S for scratch, T for torn, U for stained, W is a shade variation if there's been a little bit of a paintwork going on. X means you can actually explain something in the box, and the Z is for any sign writing issues. Okay, now this brings us on to the appraisal. Going down from left to right in columns, firstly we have carpets. Now, in a lot of auction houses, the carpets are kept in the boot, so check the boot, and we find that the carpets for the rear and the front are actually in the boot. Mats DIY, that's for particular if they bought some after sort of sale mats, and in this case it has none, so we put a cross in there. Then number 4 is the seat, front near side. Okay, so you have a check it over for any burns, abrasions, rips or tears. This one in particular is in good order, so we tick that. Same for the front offside seat, and then the rear seat is also in good order. In particular on some of these larger SUVs such as a BMW X5, there might be some more seats in the boot where it turns into a 7-seater. Check and see if that's the case. If it is, raise the seats and check those as well. Okay, the next one, number 7, is the offside front door panel. Okay, now this is the inside of the vehicle. It's the interior of the vehicle, so it's the door card where you have a look and see if that's got any scratches or any sort of damage in there. If not, we just tick it off, and same again for the offside rear and the near side front and the near side rear door panels. That's the internal ones. Looking to see if it has a sunroof. If it has a sunroof, you put in a tick. If it doesn't, like this one doesn't, we put in a cross. And likewise, if it doesn't have one, it won't have the hatch cover that covers it over, so we cross there. As a boot area, okay, check the boot area to make sure that there's no sort of damage in there. In particular, just on the edge of the boot where things can get slid in and get scratched. And in this case, there are some scratches, as there are on most vehicles. So we write a S in there for scratch, and we go to the rear and we write an S in there. Radio cassette, bit of a thing of the past, so we write no in there. The headlining, get inside the vehicle and check the headlining from front to back. The headlining is actually the lining of the roof. If there's any sort of, check to see if there's any sort of stains, marks. You know, in particular, if it's a light coloured one, it could actually have some finger marks and things on it. If not, and it's good, we put a tick like this one is. Headrest quantity. Now the reason why we put these in there, because it's very expensive to replace a headrest, so we count them, make sure that they're all there, and in this particular vehicle it has 5. Sat nav system, turn on the ignition, turn on the sat nav, and ensure that the sat nav is working if it has it. Sometimes it will come up with the sat nav in place, but it'll say no SD card. Have a check into the documents to see if the SD card has already been taken out. If it has, place it in, make sure it works, and then remove it again and put it back to where it was found. If the sat nav system works, we put in a big tick in there. If you have to take out the SD card from an envelope to test it, then put an X in there and explain, and in the remarks column write SD card and where it is. Bread key, doesn't have one. Now we're moving to the exterior. Going to the front wing offside, make sure you check it for scratches, any kind of dents or chips. Well, this one has a small scratch, so we put an S in there and we take that onto the diagram at the bottom. The door offside also has a little dent and a scratch where someone has probably hit it with another car door or a shopping trolley, and so what we do is we go dent, scratch, and then in here dent, scratch. Moving down, rear door offside is okay. The seals, if you open the doors and check the inside of the seals, just sometimes people get the seatbelt caught in the doors and it causes a bit of damage. And also have a look at the seals underneath. In this case, they're fine. The rear wing offside, okay, look above the wheel arch and check for any scratches or dents, and in this case it's okay. Moving around to the rear of the vehicle, because this has a tailgate, open up the tailgate, make sure it works properly. If it has a automatic close button, make sure that works properly. Then we check for any sort of scratches, abrasions, dents or chips, and in this case it has none. You check the rear screen for any chips, and there are none, so we carry on with that. Check the rear wiper. Okay, make sure that it's got the blade on it and it's not actually sort of causing any damage, and we tick that. We don't need, at this point we do not need to check that it's working. That comes a little bit later on. Boot lid, because we've got a tailgate, we don't need to worry about that. On the rear panel, okay, which is surrounding the tailgate, we have a good look around again for scratches, abrasions, chips or dents. There are none on here. Now coming to the bumper, there is a couple of small scratches on the bumper, so we put scratch on there and the two scratches on the bumper. Balance is fine, number plate is fine, and at this point we check the exterior mirrors to see if there are any sort of marks or scratches, and on this one both mirrors are scratched. So what I suggest you do is you write scratch, scratch on there, and on the side there scratch and scratch. Okay, check that there's an aerial, and this one there's a fin, so that's fine. Handles and locks are all in place. We don't have a fuel card, and days of attacks disc are pretty much gone now. Moving on to the front wing on the near side, checking that, all good. And the front door near side, again there's a little scratch and dent caused by a shopping trolley, so we're going to SD that and scratch and dent in there. Rear door near side is fine, the sills are fine, and the rear wing near side is fine. Then it brings us back to the front, and we check the bonnet. The bonnet looks really good until you look very closely and there's a couple of stone chips, so we put C on there for stone chips and on there. The screen is fine, the wipers are in place and they're there. We look at the front panel and there's some stone chips on the front panel as well, so in there. The grille is fine. The bumper, there's a scratch and some chips, so with two chips and a scratch, and it appears on the front bumper on the drawing. The valance is fine, the number plate is fine. Make sure that the badge is there, and then we check over the roof. Looking at the roof, we find that there's no damage, but in particular vans can be quite difficult, but it's well worth sort of standing on the rear wheel and having a look, because vans are actually more susceptible to getting damage to the roof than cars. But this one's fine. There's no etching, there's no roof rack, and there's no tow bar. Okay, getting into the car now, we just check the lights, we turn all the lights on, put the indicators on, and we see that they're all working, so we're happy with that. Go to the rear, you can see that the brake lights are fine, all the lights are fine, the indicators are fine, the fog lights are fine. Now if you've got no one to assist you to see if the brake lights are on, you can have a look in reflections against another car, or a shop window or anything like that, if that's practicable. You just got to possibly move the car. Whilst in the car, we check that all the wipers work front and rear, and they all do. Check all the electric windows work, the electric mirrors work, central locking, and all the internal lights. If it has an alarm system, yes, and does it have a built-in telephone? This one does not. Moving on to the wheels. Now we're checking the alloys on this one. So looking on the alloys, we've got the offside front. We find that there's a scratch, so we stick that into there. And likewise with the rear. The near side rear, this one's okay, so we tick that one, and there's a scratch and a dent on the near side front. On this one, there are run flats, so there is no spare. The trims, because they're all alloys, there is no wheel trims, so it's quite happy to just sign that one off there. Go around checking the tyres, visual check of the tyres to make sure that there's no sort of abrasions or wear or uneven wear, and that they, in your opinion, they're fit to drive on the road. And in this case, all 4 tyres are fine. There is no spare, and because there is run flats, it doesn't actually come with a jack with this, so we're going to put a cross out there. Really important that we check, and you get a physical check of the locking wheel nut, so put it in there. And I often have on this one a little cross in the corner, because I go locking wheel nut in glove compartment, so it's quite obvious where it is. Okay, so we've done the appraisal of the vehicle. We're quite happy with that. The weather is fine and dry. If it is wet and dirty, I would actually write a statement in here that says that the car was appraised in the wet, and the car was dirty, and it is difficult to appraise small scratches and stone chips. It's a bit of a cover your backside clause, but it's worth doing. If there's any particular damage that you think could come back and bite you, always take a photograph. It might be prudent as well to take your tablet, go into the camera, go for a video, and just walk around the car and video the car on the outside for about 15 seconds and save it, because if something comes back, we can always go in and have a look, go frame by frame and get close in to see if the damage was there beforehand. So, you know, that might be quite prudent to do. Okay, next thing we do is, as the driver, you sign and you print your name. You then get the person that you're collecting from to sign, and we're going to call him John Smith. And Smith. And there we are, ready to go. What we then do is we give the guy the pink copy, and we make our delivery. On getting to Bootle, we then sort of go in and we put in the delivery date, which is the same day, 06/9, and we're there by 1500 or 3 p.m. and the mileage was 21,480. Okay, we then go through it with the guy at the delivery point, Mr. Jones. We get Mr. Jones to sign it. And then you, as the driver, then sign it to say that the job is complete. What we then do, we place the green copy, making sure that it's easy to read, into the glove compartment of the car. If the agent there wants a copy, you can give him the yellow copy, but we keep the white copy for our records here. Okay, if there's any questions on how to fill in a POD form, please do not hesitate to contact the office, and I'm quite happy to go through it with you one for one. Thank you.